3 months ago, Claire noticed a change in her son Leviticus. He stopped calling her Mom, addressing her only as Claire. He knew she put her keys in the left drawer, even though he'd never seen them. He smiled when she cried. She took him to a psychiatrist. The doctor said, "Your son is perfectly healthy. The problem is you." And that night, Claire woke up to Lev standing over her bed, whispering, "Do you think I'm a stranger to you? I'm the one who's always been with you. You just never noticed." Claire raised Lev alone. Her husband left when Lev was 2 and never showed up. She worked as a teacher, checking his notebooks in the evenings and taking him to the park on weekends. Lev was a quiet, shy boy, afraid of dogs and loud noises. She knew him like the back of her hand. So when Lev began to change, Claire noticed it right away. At first, it was little things. He stopped eating broccoli, even though he'd adored it since he was 3. Then he started calling her by her first name. "Claire, give me some juice." "Claire, I'm tired," she corrected him, but he didn't change his mind. Then something even stranger happened. She lost her apartment keys. She searched everywhere. Her bag, her pockets, the hallway. Lev stood in the doorway, staring at her. Then he said, "They're in the left drawer of the kitchen table, Claire." She opened the drawer. The keys were there, but she never put keys in that drawer. Never. "How do you know?" she asked. "You put them there yourself last night," Lev replied. "Don't you remember?" "You often forget, Claire." She didn't remember, and that scared her more than his strange tone. A week later, she heard Lev talking to himself in his room. She opened the door slightly. He was sitting on the bed, staring at the wall, and speaking in a mature voice. "She'll understand soon. We need to speed up the process." Claire walked in. Lev turned to her and smiled. The smile of a normal child. "Who were you talking to?" she asked. "To you, Mom. I always talk to you." He called her Mom for the first time in a month, but there was something alien in his voice that sent shivers down Claire's spine. She made an appointment with a child psychiatrist. Dr. Gray examined Lev, asked questions, and ran tests. Then he invited Claire into his office. "Your son is fine," he said. "He's smart, developed, emotionally stable. He shows no signs of a disorder." "But he's changed," Claire insisted. "He's not the same anymore." "Children grow up, Mrs. Claire. They change. Perhaps you're obsessing too much over the little things." He knew where the keys were, even though I didn't put them in that drawer. "You could have forgotten. Stress, work, fatigue." Claire fell silent. It seemed to her that the doctor was speaking not to her, but to someone behind her. She turned around. No one. When she returned home, she found Lev doing something strange. He was sitting in the kitchen, drawing. Claire went over and peered into the sketchbook. The drawing depicted a woman, her face covered in black paint. The woman was sitting on a chair, surrounded by people in black. Claire recognized herself. "Who is this?" she asked. "You," Lev replied. "That's you when you die." She tore out the sheet of paper and burned it in the sink. Lev looked at her emotionlessly. Then he said, "Don't worry, Claire. It won't be anytime soon. I'll take care of you." Claire didn't sleep that night. She sat in the chair, looking at her son's door, and waited. At 3 a.m, the door opened. Lev walked out into the hallway. He didn't turn on the light, but he moved confidently, as if he could see in the dark. He approached the chair Claire was sitting in and stopped a step away. "You're awake," he said. "I knew it. You're always awake when I go out." "Where do you go?" Claire asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "To my place. To the apartment we used to live in. I go there every night. Nobody lives there. We moved out 2 years ago. I live there. That's my room. That's where my real mother is. She taught me everything." Claire's heart went cold. She wanted to ask who this real mother was, but her tongue wouldn't obey. Lev leaned over, kissed her forehead, and went into his room. The door closed. The next day, Claire went to the old apartment. The door was locked. She rang the bell. Silence. She was about to leave when the door opened slightly. A woman stood there, the same one from the drawing. Her face was hidden by a veil, but Claire recognized her figure, her hands. It was herself, only 20 years older. "Hello, Claire," the woman said. "I've been waiting for you."
Come in.
"Lev told me you figured it out."
Claire took a step back.
The door slammed. She ran down the stairs without looking back. At home, she locked herself in the bathroom and sat there until evening. Lev didn't knock. He didn't call her. He only left a note under the door. "Don't be afraid, Claire. I won't hurt you. I just want you to know the truth." Claire didn't take the note. She tossed it in the trash. But at that very moment, the paper burst into flames. And the words, "You're next," appeared in the ashes. Claire hadn't slept for the second night in a row. She sat in the living room with the light on and stared at Lev's door. It was quiet behind it. The boy hadn't come out. He didn't rustle. He wasn't breathing. Claire walked to the door and opened it slightly. Lev was asleep, curled up on the bed. A normal child, but Claire knew better. She called her ex-husband. He hadn't answered his phone in years. This time, he answered. "What happened?" he asked sleepily. "Something's wrong with Lev," Claire said. "He's changed. He calls me by my first name. He knows things he shouldn't know. He says he goes to his real mother's old apartment." Her ex-husband paused, then said, "Claire, you never had a son. We had a daughter. She died in childbirth. Don't you remember?" Claire froze. She looked at her hands, at the wedding ring on her right hand. She wasn't married. She lived alone, but a child was sleeping in the room. "You're lying," she whispered. "Claire, you've been in the clinic for 3 years. You made up Lev yourself. The doctors told me so. I didn't want to call you, but you did it yourself." She looked at the phone. The number she dialed was unfamiliar. She didn't know this person. She had never been married. She threw the phone on the couch and went to the mirror. An unfamiliar woman stared back at her. Old, gray-haired, with empty eyes. Claire ran her hand over her face. Wrinkles. She couldn't remember when she'd gotten old. She opened the door to Lev's room. The bed was empty. On the pillow lay a note. "You started to remember.
Don't.
You were happy in our world.
Stay."
Claire ran out into the hallway. The apartment wasn't hers. The wallpaper was different, the furniture different. She ran out onto the landing. A sign hung on the wall. St. Mary's Mental Hospital. Chronic Disorders Unit. She stood in her hospital pajamas, barefoot, in the hallway that smelled of medication. A nurse came out of the room. "Mrs. Claire, are you up again? Go to bed. It's time for your meds." "Where's Lev?"
Claire asked.
"Where's my son?" The nurse sighed and shook her head. "You don't have a son, Mrs. Claire. You've been with us for 5 years. Your son died at birth. You made him up to cope with the pain, but he was never real." Claire fell to her knees. Memories flashed through her mind. The hospital room, the screams, the dead child, the husband who left, years of therapy, the pills. She remembered it all. "But I saw him," she whispered. "I talked to him. He was so real." "They're hallucinations, Mrs. Claire. We've increased the dosage, but they won't go away." The nurse helped her up and led her to her room. Claire lay down on the cot and closed her eyes. She wanted to forget, to imagine her son again, to be with him again. That night, she woke to someone sitting on the edge of her bed. Leviticus. He was smiling. "You learned the truth," he said. "But the truth isn't important. What matters is how you feel." You love me. I love you. Nothing else matters. You're not real, Claire whispered. The real one is the one who's here. I'm here.
And they?
They give you pills to kill me. But I'm not dying. I'm in your head. I'm where you want me to be. Lev took her hand. His fingers were warm, alive. Claire began to cry. Stay with me, he begged. Don't take the pills. Then I can come every night. Claire nodded. She knew it was madness. But madness was warmer than reality. The next morning, she hid the pills under her tongue and then spat them into the sink. That evening, Lev came again. They talked until morning. He told her about his dreams, about school, about his friends. Claire listened and smiled. A month later, the doctors noticed that she was improving. She stopped screaming at night, stopped calling herself by a different name. She was calm. But they didn't know that every night she talked to a son who didn't exist. One day, Lev said, Mom, you have to leave here. They won't cure you here. They'll only put you to sleep. I know the way out. He showed her the way through the back door, past the nurse's station, through the park. Claire escaped. She wandered through the city, not knowing where to go. Lev led her. He said, left, right, straight ahead. She approached the old apartment where she imagined they used to live. The door was open. Everything inside was like in her hallucinations. The same wallpaper, the same furniture. On the table lay a photo album. Claire opened it. The photos were of Leviticus. From infancy to 10 years old. She didn't remember taking these photos, but they were there. She turned around. Lev stood in the doorway, smiling. Welcome home, Mom. We're going to live here now, forever. Claire hugged him and burst into tears. She knew it wasn't real, but she didn't want to see reality anymore. Claire lived in this apartment for 3 days. She didn't go outside, didn't answer the phone, didn't eat. Lev brought her water and told her everything would be okay soon. He acted like a caring adult, even though he was a child. Claire didn't ask how he knew how to make tea or wash floors. She was afraid of the answer. On the 4th day, she found an old medical chart in the bedroom. Hers. It read, Patient suffers from acute postpartum psychopathy. The loss of the child has led to a dissociative disorder. Prognosis is poor. Claire remembered. The birth had been difficult. The baby was stillborn. She held him in her arms, stroked his cold cheeks, and whispered, You're just sleeping. The doctors took his body away, but she continued to hear him cry. He called for her. Every night, she began to see him in the hallway, in the bathroom, on the bed. Then he grew up. She named him Leviticus. She invented his personality, his habits, his voice. She believed in him so strongly that he became real. For her, she closed the chart. Lev stood in the doorway. Do you remember everything? He asked. Yes, Claire replied. You're not real. I made you up. I'm real for you. That's enough. Claire looked out the window. An ambulance was parked below. 2 paramedics got out and headed for the entrance. The clinic had sent them. Claire knew they would take her away, give her more medication, and Lev would disappear. Don't let them, Mom, he whispered. Stay with me. Claire opened the window. The wind blew in her face. She looked down, then at Leviticus. He was smiling. Jump, he said. We'll be there together, forever. Claire froze. She knew it was the voice of her illness, but she was tired of fighting. She was tired of a reality without her son. She took a step forward. At that moment, the apartment door was kicked in. Paramedics rushed inside. They grabbed Claire and pulled her away from the window. She screamed, resisted, calling for Leviticus. But he was gone. All that remained was an empty room and dust on the floor. At the clinic, they increased her medication dosage. Claire became quiet and submissive. She no longer spoke of her son. The doctors decided the treatment was helping. But at night, when everyone was asleep, she would open her eyes and stare into an empty corner of the room. There, in the darkness, stood Leviticus. He hadn't disappeared. He was simply waiting for her to stop taking the medication. He knew she was weak. One night, Claire whispered, "I miss you." Lev came to the bed, sat next to her, and took her hand. "I'm always here, Mom. You just don't look my way." Claire closed her eyes. She had a dream. She and Lev were walking in the park. He was holding her hand. They were laughing. The sun was shining. The birds were singing. She knew it was a dream, but she didn't want to wake up. In the morning, the nurse couldn't wake her. Claire smiled in her sleep. A look of happiness froze on her face. The doctor said it was cardiac arrest. But Claire, she simply went to where Lev was, to a place without pills, hospitals, or loneliness. On the day of her funeral, a stranger came to her grave. He laid flowers and said, "Sorry I couldn't help." It was her husband, the one she had run away from. He looked at the photograph on the headstone and saw the woman he had lost many years ago. When she lost her child, she lost herself. A year later, a boy stood at the same grave. He read the name on the stone and smiled. A passerby asked, "Did you know her?" The boy replied, "That's my mother. She sleeps, but sometimes she wakes up and talks to me in my dreams." The passerby left, and the boy remained standing at the grave. His name was Leviticus. He was 10 years old, and she was a figment of someone's imagination. Or not.